OpenAI has tripled its crawl rate of the internet. What does that mean for AI discoverability?
All right, so we're looking at this study of 7 billion log files that claims that OpenAI has tripled their crawl rate of the web. So we're going to get into what that means, the different crawl bots, and what they do. I think understanding this is important for putting together your strategy. So first off, we should start with what this actually means. So when someone visits your site, there's a crawl log on that. Not very interesting beyond that. But Botify, this company, has access to a lot of data. They work with some enterprise clients. And so they were able to look at this on a large scale.
Mm-hmm.
So they can see the different types of crawlers that from ChatGPT or from OpenAI, I should say, that visit your website. And there are three. One is the ChatGPT user. That is when you go and you say, like, I'm looking at this company, whenever you trigger that ChatGPT to do that search, you can say, tell me about X company. What is the best company for this? Anytime it's doing that on behalf of the user, you're going to see the ChatGPT user crawler. Then there's the ChatGPT bot. That's the general bot that OpenAI uses for training data. So if you see that, it's crawling your site for training data, which is very important to understand. If you ask ChatGPT, like, what does this company do? What do you know about this company? Oftentimes it will not trigger the search. It already knows about you, and this is how it knows about you. And that information that it gathers in the training data it's crucial that it understands exactly what you want it to understand about your company. If it believes you're an expert in this, but you're actually focusing on this, that is where you get into some trouble when you're trying to be, recommended for whatever that service is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the OpenAI search bot. This is the web search crawler. When it performs a search that isn't user initiated. So it's looking for, I think actually this would be a better example of who's the best this for that. It goes out and searches the web and it looks for sources and results. So it says this is the one that was most associated with SEO and fan out queries. So you search for, you give it your story. I'm looking for, plastic surgeon to handle this, blah, blah, blah. Who's the best one? I'm in Chicago. And it does the query fan out. That is such a hard phrase to say.
Yeah.
And so it searches all of these related things, right? And this is the bot that is actually going out and doing that searches.
Okay. So it's a bot, three-team bot, bot team.
It is a 3-team bot.
Okay.
A 3-bot team. Okay. So this study found one interesting thing, which was that fewer people may be using ChatGPT. When they actually dug into that, something more interesting came out. So are fewer people using ChatGPT? Maybe. I don't think so. There have been reports that it's plateaued. I mean, I think most people use it at this point. But Botify had a different analysis here, in that OpenAI is likely relying on more cached resources. So as it continually crawls the web, it's building up its own resources. So it has all this understanding. So the idea is that there are always going to be some things that are timely, right? You need a news story. You need something that where like up to the date reviews matter. But let's say you're looking for more general things, and this could even be products and services as well. It can have an understanding of, this kind of product works for this. These are the top companies within that product category. And when it's already done the research, it can pull from its own cache resources. So I think that is incredibly important to understand that right now it is searching a lot when you go and do when you do the research in ChatGPT. But in the future, it could rely less on in the moment searches and more on its own cache resources. So very, very interesting. If that doesn't make you think about your strategy, I'm not sure what will. Okay, so the main point is that since August, OpenAI has tripled the crawl of the web. So like we said, they're getting more into, or as they do all this research, they're growing their internal resources. Now, this wasn't the same across niches. In some categories, we saw an increase. In some categories, we saw a decrease. Okay, so categories that saw an increase: media and publishers, 700% increase;
Mm.
healthcare, 740% increase; marketplaces, 215; internet, 200; other, that's not super helpful, but 300%; and retail and travel were the lowest. So actually, retail was 200%, not bad. Travel only 29%. So media and publishers, this is I think quite interesting, because if your strategy involves general brand building, getting featured in the news, as isn't just news site, this is all publisher sites, but it's I would assume that it's attempting to have like a better understanding of the overall narrative around many topics, like what's going on in the news. Um, and I do wonder, like, if their strategy, how much of their strategy is to just crawl and have a great understanding so that it can rely on its own information. And again, this is different than just its training data, right? So this
Mm.
is it's going out and researching these topics as users are doing the research often, and then caching the resources. What do you think about that?
I think it's a really interesting study, and I think it's indicative of what we're seeing in the wild. And when it comes to strategy, I think it's really telling in terms of like where you should focus. So we speak to a lot of clients about like how to tailor an AI visibility strategy, and should it be to any given model. Um, and I think that's difficult because all models and LLMs are like nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have like an overarching strategy, but if you are going to sort of try and pick a model where you want to hedge your bets against, I think it's clear that OpenAI has invested in the resources needed to be a competitor of Google. So Sam
Mm-hmm.
Altman made huge investments into GPU and compute power, which Anthropic did not. And you can see as soon as Anthropic releases a new model, within a week, the Reddit threads blow up and say it's got stupid within a week. And it's because Anthropic just cannot handle the compute.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like you said, if this is showing that it is crawling the web at 3x the rate in order to have like quicker accessibility to data, then that means our strategy, potentially a winning strategy, is focusing on getting your brand inside of OpenAI's training data, as it could be a safe bet on the model that wins. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a place for Anthropic. Obviously, it's brilliant at coding, and that's where people are like gravitating towards for that. But in terms of actually, a model that you use, this data supports what we're seeing out in the wild.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, I was building out our updated AI Visibility Audit, and looking at what models should we really include, because it's we geek out about this, so we want to include all the models because we find them all interesting. But I was going down this rabbit hole, and I was asking ChatGPT and Claude, which model should we include, and Claude told me, let's be realistic. Nobody's doing this kind of research in Claude. Like,
Really?
yes.
Oh, what an honest Abe.
I
How
know.
lovely.
So I was like, that's true. Like, Claude is very popular, but it's not used as much for that kind of research. Like,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a service provider, you're looking for a product, you go to ChatGPT, or maybe Gemini, but you probably don't go to Claude. So
That is so
yeah, I think
true.
that,
I
yeah.
can't imagine for the life of me, if I'm going to, really want to get into a conversation about something and explore something, it just feels right to be inside a ChatGPT. Claude,
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel like you're going to be having a conversation with something that's going to really offer you back and forth, like value add on that conversation.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like what it's designed to do. It will do a fine job, honestly, but yeah, it doesn't feel like what it's designed to do.
Mm. So what does this mean then in terms of um, what else we're seeing with the results? Like, has this study shown that with this 3x increase in crawl for certain industries, that there's other things to take note of?
Yeah, another interesting thing. So this is looking at when this. So this correlates to when ChatGPT 5 came out, which I believe was last summer. Um, so now they've seen that. And of course, this is not all searches. This is only the 7 billion log files that they studied. So it doesn't include everything. It's just the sites that they have access to. But it's a fairly large sample size. So, okay. So they're seeing now that the ratio switched. So before GPT-5, they would see more activity from the training bot, and now they're seeing slightly more activity from the search bot. So they pose the question, if you're a marketer, founder, whatever, which one should you focus more on? This is where this becomes important. And I would argue you don't say like we're only focusing on this. There's so much overlap in what you should be focusing on that will help you to get recommended with the search bot, and will improve like what the model understands about you when the GPT training bot comes around. So if you look at like the strategies for getting picked up in the training data, these are things like, you're creating like deep expertise content for YouTube. Obviously having everything on your website completely updated, case studies. It's having like this very thoroughness to your content. That's a lot of that should be the focus of being recommended as well and triggering the search bot. But triggering the search bot, you're also looking at some more shorter term strategies, like what listicles have surfaced for this term, what review sites are important for the prompts I'm looking at. But those are things that the GPT bot is going to take in as well. It's going to look at the review profiles. Those big listicles, if you're looking at like NerdWallet, or we were working on one that was recently for like different types of mortgages. And NerdWallet was a huge resource that kept coming up over and over again as we ran prompts. I think that's going to be hit by both bots. The search bot as you're doing those prompts, as well as the GPT bot as it's doing its training data.
I think you need to befriend all the bots.
Befriend all the bots.